and Shifra. מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי לא אחסר, בהנו דשא ירביצני על מי מנוחות נפשי ישובב יענכני במגלי צדק למען שמו, גם כי אלק וקיץ על מוות לא ידע רע כי אתה עמדי. שבטך ומשענתך המה ינחמוני, תערוך לפני שולחן נגד צורריי, תשענת בשמן ראשי כוסי רוויה. אך טוב וחסד ירדיפוני כל ימי חיי, ושבתי בבית אדוני לאורך ימים. The words of the 23rd Psalm, Psalm of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me to water in places of repose. He renews my life. He guides me in right paths as befits his name. Though I walk through a valley of deepest darkness, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You spread a table for me in full view of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my drink is abundant. Only goodness and kindness shall pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for many long years. So we are all gathered here this afternoon, sadly to say goodbye to Dr. Alex Richman of blessed memory, who was known to the Jewish people as Alexander ben Wolf Zev Cecilia, Zichrono Livracha, the son of William and Cecilia Richman of blessed memory, the husband of Shifra Richman for some 66 years, the brother of Isabel Schiff of blessed memory, the father of Vincent Richman, of the late David Richman of blessed memory, of Janice Richman Eisenstadt and Elliot Richman, the father-in-law of David Eisenstadt, Sandy Kidston and Shumei Richman, the grandfather of Josh Eisenstadt, Hannah and Jeff Wheeler, Davina Eisenstadt, Jacob Eisenstadt, Miriam Richman, Harry Richman, Jay and Kerry Mazzolino, Ryan and Jenna Smith, and the great-grandfather of Chloe Wheeler, Sam and Katie Mazzolino. Alex passed away on January 19th with family by his side after a long illness at the age of 90. Dr. Alex Richman, he was a well-known psychiatrist. He dedicated his life to psychiatry and to serve others. He was a man who knew exactly what his divine purpose in this world was and didn't hesitate to pursue it. Each of us is here to make a unique contribution to better the world. In addition to our unique personal mission, we, Jews, also have a universal mission of being a light unto the nations, as being part of the Jewish people. Understanding our universal and unique personal mission engenders a sense of purpose and drive. It is one of the keys to living a meaningful, energized life. A person like Alex, charged with purpose, is free for boredom and looking for distractions to kill time. Living with purpose also has a healing power. A person with a mission is liberated from self-absorption and frees him from envy, competition, and hatred of others, enabling him to love and help others. My understanding is that his life as a doctor was very interesting. Since he barely had to work and interact with patients, he had to deal with numbers, with data, with charts. But Alex had a talent to treat those numbers with respect, aware that the tiniest error could mean a wrong conclusion, and a wrong conclusion could lead to severe consequences. The Torah has a very interesting approach to numbers. To better understand this, we should remember the very first census that God commanded Moses to take. The whole idea of that first census was to be aware of how many people left Egypt, and based on that number, Moses will have to make some political, social, and economical decisions. So the way the census was taken was very interesting. Instead of counting heads, every person was commanded to give one coin. It is reasonable to assume that this method would facilitate the numbering of Israel. If each individual gave the same amount, then the priests could easily arrive at the correct number of persons over the age of 20 by counting the coins. By requiring each to give the same amount, God was demonstrating to Israel that each individual was the same in God's eyes. Each soul has the same value. It did not matter where the earthly circumstances happen to be. Each soul has the same value to God. But, on the other hand, just as Alex's work, the facts weren't tempered with emotions. Numbers are so important in Judaism that we even have a book named after them. Alex was an individual passionate for facts, for evidence. He even asked his kids multiple times to try to find mistakes on his data sheets and rewarding them for finding errors. He was aware of the importance of his work and the importance of being accurate to help others. This desire to help never abandoned him, even when tragedy hit his life when his son David died. Alex overcame the grief by becoming a consultant in air safety. So, as you see, once again, helping others to avoid future tragedies. In a situation that could have paralyzed him, Alex never forgot his mission, his purpose, his desire to create a better world, a safer world. Alex was also a full-time learner. He was always hungry to learn more, to read more. Intelligence might be in our genes, but wisdom is certainly not. A person becomes wise when he or she realizes that everything in his or her life is an opportunity to learn something. Everything that happens to us and everyone we know can teach us something. We all excel at something. Some people excel at many things. But no matter how accomplished we are, there is always more to learn. You see, we read in Pirkei Avot, which is part of the Mishnah, the rabbinic literature. Rabbi Dustai, the son of Rabbi Yanai, will say in the name of Rabbi Meir, anyone who forgets even a single word of his learning, the Torah considers it as if he had compromised his life. As it is stated in Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 9, just be careful and carefully guard your soul, lest you forget the things that your eyes have seen. Alex stayed involved in different projects and active research almost to the end of his life. He was recognized and congratulated in the past for his intellectual longevity. And Alex was also an avid reader. He loved books. There is a very funny story about Alex and books that I wanted to share, but I won't because it's coming on Jani's eulogy. Wait for that one. Because Alex also had a sense of humor, which he used in different ways. From incorporating cartoons in the classroom, to playing a little prank here and there, to funny comments during casual conversation. Actually, both Elliot and Janice are going to talk more about that in a few minutes. The rabbis explained that humor is useful on a practical level, most notably in the realm of education. The benefits of humor in this area are acknowledged by the Talmud, both by advocacy and by example. In the former sense, we are told positively that the famous sage called Rabbah, very famous rabbi from the past, prior to beginning his lecture, opened with a milta divi de chuta, which is an Aramaic word for a humorous remark. As a result, his students had their heart open to learning. It is also related that the famous Rabbi Aryeh Kaplan was once asked if there were any jokes in the Talmud. And his response was, yes, but they're all old. The Talmud even presents God having a sense of humor. Alex was very happy that he reached the milestone of his 90th birthday, an event that he celebrated multiple times in different days. Another important thing to mention is how much he enjoyed the visits of Rabbi Weiss in Halifax every week. Alex's connection to Judaism grew stronger as he got older, enjoying Friday night services and finding comfort in the recitation of the Shema Israel. Out of all the meaningful traditions we have in Jewish funerals, perhaps the most important one is the eulogy. This has biblical roots, as we see that our father Abraham eulogized Sarah, his wife. The word eulogy means a good word. Giving a eulogy is a way to honor a person's life. It is also a way to provide comfort to those who are heartbroken. The eulogy expresses sorrow for the loss, yet celebrates and finds meaning in the person's life. When we suffer the loss of a loved one, what is not going to be with us is evident. We go to the cemetery, we bury the body. But what is not so evident is what remains with us in our lives. The eulogy is the tool to remind us that not everything gets buried. In fact, the most important part of our existence, our values, our contributions to society, to friends, to family, etc., stay with us. We just need to be reminded through the eulogies. So to begin the process to eulogize Dr. Alex Richman, Alava Shalom of blessed memory, I would like to invite first Elliot.
I'm Elliot, and I am the youngest in the Richman clan. I'm honored to say a few words about my dad on behalf of the family, my wife, Sandy, and our boys, Jay and Ryan. One thing I have learned from my dad was the importance of not only having, but sharing a sense of humor. This was something that Dad passed down to me, and I in turn to our boys. This humor is cerebral and is very dry. The drier the better, much to Sandy's discomfort. Whenever I talk about becoming a comedian, as in the next Bob Hope, Sandy always tells me not to give up my daytime job. Since she didn't want to have to live on lettuce and tomatoes. Dad's bantering with me, and now my bantering with our two boys would go something like this. That's fishy. That sure smelt. I just told you for the halibut. If anything should happen to me, call the sturgeon. Woe is me. I became a fisherman, but I could not survive on my net income. I really could go on and on, but I believe we better stop here, lest we flounder. Dad was determined to make his 90th birthday And he did it. That is not, quote, old, unquote. I told him, I said, happy 40th anniversary of your 50th birthday. You're just a 50-year-old man with 40 years worth of experience. The last joke I shared with my dad was, I'm not in a position to start yoga. On a serious note, Dad believed very strongly in education, something all four of us are thankful and grateful for. Dad gave each of us the gift of confidence and to always do our best in everything that we did and do. He loved reading everything and anything. Books, magazines, newspapers, and whatnot. Something I myself enjoy very much to this very day. We both were upset with the Globe and Mail when it stopped distributing its print edition east of Quebec in 2017, in November of 2017. Dad was always there for me, and later for both Sandy and me. He always had sound advice for us both. My best years growing up were in New York City. I remember Dad and I running around the reservoir in Central Park, something that Vincent and David also did. I remember the family going to Jones Beach on Long Island. I remember Dad taking me to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Guggenheim Museum, and the Museum of Natural History on the west side. Radio City Music Hall, with its famous Rockettes, Rockefeller Center in New York City. New York City had everything that you could ask for when growing up. Dad was an expert in risk management and epidemiology as applied to mental health. Dad's life dramatically changed when his son David did not survive U.S. Air Flight 1493 and the crash in Los Angeles on February the 1st of 1991. He was determined to improve global aviation safety, to prevent other families from going through what we ourselves had experienced with David's untimely death. He kept David's memory alive by founding I'll Go Plus, and that was developed as an automated oversight system for analyzing aviation data for risk analysis, trend monitoring, and benchmarking of performance measures. As a matter of fact, Jay himself, at his work in Alberta, is very much involved with risk management frameworks. Dad loved Mom with all of his heart and soul. I sometimes hear Dad using a term of endearment with his loving, devoted wife of 66 years. Quote, "She whom I dare not disobey," unquote. The very same term I use with my wife, Sandy. Janice will thank certain individuals who took care of Dad in his final days. I would like to thank those from out of town who came here to say goodbye to Dad. That would be folks from California, Michigan, New York, South Carolina, Alberta, and Ontario, as well as Nova Scotia. I'd like to thank the local folks who made everything possible, and I hope I didn't miss anyone. On behalf of Dad, thank you, everyone. May Dad's memory be blessed. Goodbye, Dad, until we meet again. Janice.
Thank you, Elliot. Dr. Alex Richman. The word doctor derives from the Latin verb that means to teach. Because Dad's favorite number was 7, I'd like to share 7 lessons that I've learned from Dad. Lesson 1, grab the ring of opportunity when it's in front of you. So the story goes that after graduating from medical school, Dad's roommate, who liked to bet on the horses, took Dad to the racetracks. He'd been wanting to do this for a while, but it wasn't until this time that Dad took his roommate up on the opportunity to go bedding with him. And he won enough money to get married. So off he goes with Mom to North Dakota, I believe it was. And he's driving, and he says he didn't ask Mom, but told her, by the way, we're engaged. Drives a little further. By the way, we're getting married tomorrow. Smartest decision Dad ever made was, 1, not to ask, to tell, and to marry Mom. Lesson 2, pursue your vision. Dad had a vision about how to change the world. He was a workaholic, the epitome of workaholic. He was also ahead of his time. I don't want to talk about the medical things, but in other ways. He was, I'm sure, the first person to do the what's called Take Your Daughter to Work Day. That was started in the 2000-something, but he was doing that in 1963. He'd take me, he had his couch where the patients would, he'd see the patients, but he had a blanket for me so I could have my nap. Having a vision and seeing the world differently doesn't always make you the easiest person to work with. And he wasn't an easy person, yet he was held by so many in such high esteem and with much love. These people included colleagues and friends of mine, Mom's, my brothers and sister-in-law. So pursue your vision, no matter what it takes. Lesson 3, publish or write about it. Share what you learn, discover, create. He was so proud of us when we got something into print. Most recently, for example, Harry's publications. And he published extensively. And after he died on January 29th, 6 days after his 90th birthday, we received a beautiful email from one of his colleagues with an attachment dated January 23rd, 2019. It's another article with Dad's name to be submitted for publication. Lesson 4, make special memories and record these. Dad was an incredible, incredible photographer. And this was how he best preserved memories. Particular memories stand out: the trip to Saskatchewan that he took just before Josh's bar mitzvah, when he traveled from Winnipeg to Saskatchewan and back in time for Josh's bar mitzvah, with Mom, Vincent, Shumay, Harry, Miriam, and Davina. He also took wonderful photos of when I came to visit from Winnipeg with the 3 older children, and we traveled around Nova Scotia. In these last 2 weeks, one of my most special memories was made during that initial weekend when I arrived. I took the red eye Friday night, arriving Saturday morning. And Saturday night, he was very restless. He wanted to get up and he wanted to talk. But he'd fall asleep very quickly because he was very tired and didn't have much energy. But one of the things he wanted to say was, "I'm proud of you." And then I asked him to say, who else? Who else are you proud of? Tell me. He said, "I'm proud of Elliot. I'm proud of Vincent. I'm proud of Mom. I'm proud of Harry. I'm proud of Miriam." And then he was asleep again, so he didn't finish his list. He had many things he started, so many things, many of the things he finished, but there were still some things I know he wanted to finish but couldn't. That's okay. Lesson 5, a sense of humor really helps get one through life. Dad had a phenomenal sense of humor. I'm going to share one of my favorite stories that he told me about medical school. He was a prankster. I didn't learn this until I was after I had finished medical school. So the medical library had all these discards, and he and another of his classmates collected all the discards in venereal disease. And he went around to leave them in various places around the city, on the bus, in the office of a doctor who specialized in sexually transmitted disease. And inside the book was written, "If lost, please return to this classmate telephone number." And the telephone number was his classmate's parents' phone number. That was Dad. One of my other favorite stories was when we were moving to Halifax from New York City. It was the day Air Canada went on strike. So we had to improvise how to get from New York to Halifax. So instead of just flying from New York to Halifax, we had to take a plane from Halifax to Boston, take a car from Boston to Bar Harbor, Maine, take a ferry from Bar Harbor, Maine to Yarmouth, take a bus all the way from Yarmouth to get to Halifax. So step one of the trip was to take the flight from New York City to Boston. And here we had carry-on luggage. This was 1978, so well before 9/11. And in this carry-on case, he had all these tools, stuff to set up the new apartment in Halifax. A saw and big scissors and all hammers and screwdrivers and all this stuff, and he had a little bottle that said poison on it. The security guard totally ignored all these dangerous-looking tools. Oh, I forgot, and also the electric drill. All of this in the carry-on. But the security guard was focused on the little bottle of poison and says, what's this? And Dad says, we're moving to Halifax and there are a lot of sick fish in the sea. Okay, next. Lesson number 6, love learning. Books are special and to be valued. Dad was a bookaholic, an absolute bibliophile. Loved collecting books, buying books, ordering books, reading books. So when we were moving from New York to Halifax, there were a lot of books to go through. Mom didn't want, she couldn't imagine we had to take every single book. So she got boxes and said, okay, Alex, here are the boxes. Please go through all your books and set aside those that we can give away or toss or donate, please. Next day, she looked, the boxes are empty. Al, would you please go look through your books? So he goes around, and you have to remember, our study was wall-to-wall books. He had put all the books up by himself, all the brackets and the shelves. He may have hammered his fingers a few times and glued his fingers together a few times, but he put up those shelves, and there were tons of books. Anyway, still, a week later, Mom says the boxes are empty. She says, I'm standing here over these boxes until you sort the books and find the books you want to give away. So Dad goes back to the study and walks around, and he finds one book. Here. It was a duplicate. Also with books and reading, he emphasized it was very important to stay up to date. And the last present he gave to me was a book, because he wanted to be sure I kept up to date. And this was just 2 weeks ago. It was by Sir William Osler, called The Practice of Medicine, published in 1892. So yes, Dad, I will stay up to date. This love of learning and the love of life is actually how I define my quality of life, this ability to learn. And I believe that this was actually the most frustrating aspect for Dad at the end of his life, when his mind could not retain and remember, process, and create the way it had earlier. But yet he still was able to think so creatively and still learn. Lesson 7, numbers are important. Yes, Dad treated his numbers like patients. And he loved number relationships. That first weekend I arrived in Halifax 2 weekends ago, I said, Dad, you've been married to Mom 66 years. Did you know that do you realize David and I have been married for 33 years? That's twice, you have been married twice as long as David and I have been married. He said, really? I said, yes, 66 equals 33 times 2. That's right. He loved talking to his son David and grandson Harry about numbers. And he was ahead of his time in that with the use of mathematical modeling for biomedical phenomenon. And I finally learned that weekend that he had a favorite number, and it was 7. Dad, I said, why is 7 your favorite number? And he thought and he thought. He said, well, it was because that was as high as he could count when he was 7 years old in English, Yiddish, and Russian. So now I understand. But it also made me realize that weekend that I have a favorite number. My favorite number is 0. 0 breathlessness, 0 pain, 0 thirst, 0 hunger, 0 restlessness, 0 agitation, 0 worry. Now Dad is at peace. His work on earth is done. He's taken his intellectual longevity to the academic ivory tower of the heavens. He was ahead of his time on earth, and I wonder what understanding he will glean from the universe. I have several people I wish to thank. First, I wish to thank Aunt Addie for hosting and helping our family in so many ways and for hosting our Shiva. To Cousin Lloyd and my extra son, Jake Dewan, for chauffeuring our family. To my Toronto family, Winnipeg friends, Eric and Eileen and Aunt Leslie, for baked goods and food. To Dr. Harsh Mishra, Dad and Mom's family doctor. Special thank you to Amanda Tinning, Dad's nurse practitioner from the Heart Failure Transition Clinic, who provided care in the home and helped Dad reach his 90th birthday milestone about 5 months well after I thought he would be around. I also wanted to give a special thanks to Rabbi Weiss, their synagogue in Halifax. She came every Friday since July 6th and had the most meaningful and profoundly moving visits with Dad that helped him through his existential distress and fulfilled his spiritual needs in a way that was such a blessing to him. And she always brought a challah. It was a plain challah or a cinnamon challah or a chocolate challah. And I remembered how I told Dad Friday, saying, I'm hopping on. I didn't tell him I was coming. I just said, did Rabbi Weiss come? Did she bring a challah? What flavor? Plain, I think. Okay, save some for me. And Mom says, oh, I'll put some in the freezer. Don't worry, I'll put some in the freezer. I said, no, I like it fresh for breakfast. And that's how they realized, oh, she's coming to Halifax. Also, special thank you to Dad's nurses from the VON, Dad's care coordinators, Lindsay and Natasha, Dad's caregivers in the home, especially Devorah Gillard, who came into our lives like a rainbow in a storm. To the personal care workers from Northwood and Red Cross Home Care, huge thank you, and thank you to all of you for being here with our family today to say goodbye to Dad. And thank you, Rabbi Mas.
Thank you, Janice. Thank you, Elliot. Please rise now for the El Maleh Rachamim prayer, the memorial prayer. El Maleh Rachamim Shochem Bameroimim Hametzeh Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina V'mahalot Kedoshim Kedoshim Uteorim Kezoyer Arakim Amazirim Eden Ishemat Alexander Van Wolfze Cecilia שהלך לעולמו בעבור שאנחנו מתפללים והזכרת נשמתו בגן עדן. בגן עדן תהי מנוחתו לכם ולרחמים, אז תראהו בסדר כנפיו לעולמים. הוא צרור בצרור החיים, החיים את נשמתו. אדוני הוא נחלתו, וינוח ושלום על משכבו ונאמר Amen. God, full of compassion, dwelling on high, grant proper rest in the shelter of your presence, in the ranks of the saintly and pure, radiant like the bright heavens, to the soul of Alex Richman, who has gone to his eternal home. As we pray that his soul be remembered, may he rest in the Garden of Eden. So, compassionate ruler, shelter him beneath your wings forever and gather his soul in the bond of life. God is his true inheritance, and may he rest in peace in his resting place. And let us say, Amen. You may be seated. Couple of announcements before we proceed to the cemetery. Donations in Alex's memory could be made to the Terry Fox Research Institute. And the meal of consolation is going to be here at the Sher Zedek immediately after burial. Remember, we are going to the Sher Zedek Cemetery, located in the corner of Armstrong and Main Street. If you are coming with us to the cemetery, please remember to turn on the four-way flashers to proceed in caravan fashion. And please remember to stop at the red lights and stop signs. There are a few photo cameras on the way there. So, yeah, you know how it works. The Shiva will be observed here in Winnipeg for 2 days. That will be tomorrow and Tuesday, from 2 to 5 p.m. and 7 to 9 p.m. at 380 Wellington Crescent in the activity room. And now it's time to proceed with the next stage, which is to go in caravan fashion to the cemetery. And I would like to ask now to the pallbearers to exit the chapel and to assume their places alongside the coffin. Following the Sher Zedek tradition, immediate family leaves now. For the rest of us, we can leave now. Remember to form 2 lines outside the building through which the coffin will find its way to the hearse. And thank you all for coming.